Hello, guys, and welcome to the second part of the Alternate Future series. As you see here, just ignore this. This is a slight spoiler, but I wanted to, set it up before the video so I don't have to do it now. Just ignore this, okay? Today we will be continuing the series, and this time there will be wars. And yeah, so let's just begin. So, yeah, this is happening. Unfortunately, I had to do it. I mean, no, it wouldn't be a future video without this happening. So, as we all know, Russia already had this and this occupied. So now the invasion has officially started, and a bunch of Russians, invade from the south and from the north too. Belarus gets instantly involved in the war and joins the war against Ukraine. And Russia takes away all of the eastern coast area, this included. And, well, we see something similar to real life happening. As the Russians capture some territory but instantly lose it up here. And they focus everything down here. So this war drags on for very long, like in the real world. But Ukraine does do the what this region called? I forgot what it's called, but the big counterattack. And they also do the Kherson counterattack, so it's like real life. Of course, the ODO, so NATO in this universe, is supporting Ukraine with weapons and stuff like that. So Ukraine is holding out very well. Even better than in the real world. They're making some counter attacks in the east and to the south a bit. After 2 years of the war, a big breakthrough happens from the Ukrainian side. That would be cutting off Russia cutting off Crimea from the east. This is a pretty huge shock to everyone. This area had lots of Russian troops, but they did flee mostly. And the West assumed that there was some Russian plan to maybe focus their troops up north. But no, they don't do that. They just leave this whole area. And they just retreat a lot. This is a huge victory for Ukraine. And, Russia is kind of exploding from the inside. Even more than in the real world. And Ukraine just keeps on pushing, and after 2.5 years of the war, they finally get back their eastern borders and enter Crimea, but don't fully capture it. But, Russia wanted to make a deal with Ukraine that they get Crimea and nothing else. But Ukraine is determined to get Crimea back. So after another 2 months of fighting, the Russians flee Crimea. And Ukraine doesn't want to push into Russian territory. That would just not make sense at all for them. So Russia is forced to sue for peace. And, well, no one really gains anything. Except for Ukraine gaining, peace and the Russians not occupying Crimea anymore. So they ended up victorious in this war, which is pretty epic. So why this selected? No, okay. So yeah. After this, coming back to the alliance map, Ukraine joins NATO. Now that they're not in a state of war, they can join NATO, and they do join NATO. So now another Russian invasion isn't probable to happen. And yeah, the West is very happy, and they understood that Russia is very weak and their only power is nuclear. And also, when it comes to nukes, in this series, I won't use nukes because I want to in the future do a NATO versus Russia war. And in real life, that'll probably end in just nuclear war and everyone would die. And I don't want the series to end like that. I think that's pretty lame. So, no nukes will be used because too OP. Okay, anyways, now going over to the Middle East, as chaotic as ever. We've probably all heard of this chaos that is happening in Iran. And this chaos does in fact lead to a civil war. And rebels pop up from all across the country. Everywhere, just everywhere. The red are the rebels and blue is the government. The rebels are supported by NATO. All of these guys. I mean, the ODO. The cool guys. And yeah, so Iran is just small rebellions are just literally everywhere, and the government cannot, withstand this. So they do end up collapsing, and the new democratic government forms, a country in Iran. Just Iran, but better. So yeah, new government in Iran. And again, a Western supportive government, so they're good homies with the ODO. But they won't be joining it. They don't want to join, but they do cooperate. A conflict in Africa happens between Egypt and Sudan over I'm a market. Give me a second. This land, something like this. Both countries claim this land. Sudan wants to get this, and Egypt wants the straight line that's shown on this map. So both sides have a little skirmish in this region because they both send their armies there. And after some pew pew shooting, they go to war. And South Sudan joins the war on Egypt's side. And they won't help that much because South Sudan is pretty much at war with themselves, so I don't feel like they would do much. But it's always some moral support for Egypt, so why not? So yeah, Egypt starts, going with the Nile because that's the only place where it's not like complete desert. And they start capturing some major cities. Also push Sudan out of their claimed territory. Also push up the coast, so they plan to just invade everything that's not complete desert, and they just plan to, collapse the whole country from the inside. So they go with the Nile, and South Sudan helps Egypt, even though the help isn't huge. And it's to capture everything and capture everything in the coast. So it might look like Sudan still has a ton of land, but like all of this and a lot of this is desert, just pure desert. So they have no other option than to surrender, and the Egyptians and the South Sudanese draw up a peace treaty. So this is what the peace treaty looks like. South Sudan becomes the Republic of Sudan, and Egypt just gets a lot of land here. And back to the alliance map. It's not yet updated, but Egypt and the new Sudan thing. I'll just mark it so it's a bit more understandable. Join the CSTO, the Russian alliance. But you know, the NATO, so like the West, are not happy about this. But well, they won't stop it, so you know. And yeah, so war in Ukraine, war in Iran, and war in Sudan. That's not the end. French Guiana gets its independence. They do stay in the ODO. That doesn't change. They do stay in it, but now they are independent, which is pretty cool for them, I guess. And I guess that will be it for this episode. Quite a bit happened. I have some big plans for the third episode. I'll give you a little hint. It will be in Asia, more specifically East Asia. So yeah, I expect something to happen there next episode. And yeah, so that's gonna be it for this episode. Thank you for watching. Have a nice day and subscribe, leave a like, do all that stuff if you like the video, you know. And yeah, bye.